This is our latest addition to the farm, the Chickshaw, and this is basically built out of more or less scrap materials. This was a piece of a carport that was left here. The previous owners used it as a loafing shed for his horses to walk in and out, and we did one extra panel that was not in use. So took this, cut it down, and it represents the sides and the top. The other piece that's just a bunch of scrap acrylic that I got from my father-in-law, and kind of put those pieces together. We did buy the milk crates in the back and the big wheels and everything, the hardware cloth and some of the hardware we bought, but a lot of these things were repurposed, things that we had lying around, all kinds of things like that. The plywood from that ramp was part of a subfloor 3 houses ago, I think. We've moved twice since then, but that was out of a previous home renovation that we did where we had that going on. That's the little one's trying to tap into me. Okay, so that's what we got going on. We have an old closet rod as our piece right here. I had these serving another purpose, but now we got those going on right there. But a lot of this stuff was repurposed. It ended up costing us about, I haven't done the full numbers yet, and I'll do that later, let everybody know. But it ended up costing us somewhere between $200 and $300, and most of that was just in the hardware and the materials, and the big percentage of that was in the wheels, because they ended up being about $50 some a piece. So, you know, more than half of the expenses were just in the wheels alone, but it does make it worth it. I did find that by mounting the wheels ever so slightly forward, not exactly midway as it calls for in the directions, I did find that worked out better. So it was a little bit too tippy. Every time you touch it, it wanted to flip backwards, and that was just not cool. So I moved it up about 1 inch, and that made a lot of difference, all the difference in the world. Goofies. All right. All right, it turned into a little cuddly fest over here. But anyway, that's what we got going on over today. I've just been pulling it around the farm, pushing it around. Even the girls had a chance at that. I'll show you a little bit of that later. So everybody's doing their own little version of videos or whatever right now. She's doing her own little commentary. We have more commentary over there. No, keep going.
Put the netting on to keep the chickens in. We put this, that was Daddy's choice, and so that if any animal was strong enough to push it up, they won't be able to come in.
We hope so.
Yeah. These are poultry net staples, and I figured out the pattern for the bottom. It was like 3 little squares, and then put the staple.
You did. That was kind of my pattern.
Yeah. And then the 3 little plywood pieces down there are for the dust box.
Right.
And then
Didn't use the plywood because I've got more of the pallet wood on hand.
This string is here to keep the pin, so it's easy pull out.
It does make it easier. That was not why I put it on there, but it does make it easier.
And then you can take
pull it out.
Then you have to line it up with the hole and then push it in with all your might because it's kind of tough.
Pretty much everything on this Chickshaw, the kids can do, and that's a big plus. Moving it around, it's a little bit hairy. They can move it downhill as long as they can stop it, and by, you know, kind of pulling down on the front pole as you move it.
It's heavy. No.
You figured out how to stop it, huh?
Yeah. I was like, wait, how do I stop it?
It's a little scary, huh?
Yeah, it's a bit scary. You want to try?
But as long as they can do that, it's okay. But the main part is they can let the gate down, they can put the gate up. Those are the most important things that I want them to be able to contribute and be able to do on their own. So it's important for me and that the kids are involved in any way that they can. So one way that they're going to be able to do that is by locking the chickens up or letting them out in the mornings, so they can go and check the nest boxes. They can do all of those things on their own and won't require us to be doing it, even though we all want to do it, and I'm sure once these things finally do arrive, because we don't have them yet, but once these things do arrive, our birds, then we're all going to want to, you know, be involved in everything that they do every day. But for right now, definitely want to make sure that everything that we do can involve the kids in some way, shape, or form. And that's really, really important for what we're trying to do here. A couple other things that we did a little differently. Justin's plans call for a 4-inch overhang right here, and I did much more than that, maybe 5 or 6 inches. It was just how the material ended up being cut out. I'm not real happy about this part being exposed, and I may put a little piece of drip edge around there at some point, but we'll see how wet it actually gets, because it might not really get wet. And on the front, did a little bit more of an overhang, even though it doesn't really particularly call for it. But I thought that just being able to provide a little bit more shade and a little bit more shelter in case that is needed. And you can see it is big enough for kids to get in. But again, I did not choose to do the hardware, because at the time I didn't have any. Then all of a sudden I asked my father-in-law if he had any like barrel locks and stuff like that, and he gave me a whole bag of them. But I'd already put this little design on. I'm not sure how long it's going to hold up. That's kind of the other thing about it. So as it fades out, we'll do something a little bit different. That's what I got right now, and we'll just kind of go. There are a couple other things that we'll see how long they last. This being a closet rod right here, an old closet rod, and it's just a piece of pine wood. Hang on, grabbing on the camera, you silly. Hi. little goofball break. So right here on this side, I kind of messed up when I was cutting, and I didn't cut the dimensions wrong. Actually, so the dimensions were okay. I just put those pieces in the wrong spot, and by accident. So what I ended up with was a piece that was short, and I had to do this kind of crazy little patch to show. So I can show you here. All I did was take these little bits and bend them around. So the last little end is kind of bent around to hold that in place. And it ended up being okay, because, you know, now it's all tucked up behind. It's all tucked up behind this panel anyway. So there's really not that much of the overall piece that is doubled up, but it's not going anywhere. It's very sturdy and very solid, but definitely one of the things I messed up. Other things I did, I probably used way too many staples to hold the hardware cloth down, but I was just concerned that just trying to make it so that nothing could really get in there as best I could. So that's kind of some of the other things. I'm probably on the roof put too many of the screws in there, but that's also acting as part of the structural integrity of the roof, help holding it square and holding it all in one piece. So not too upset about that, but just a couple of the things I would do a little bit differently, you know, or you could do a little bit differently if you ever try this, which I do highly recommend. All right, kitty. One thing you need to do is stay away from the chickens. I hope you do not develop a taste for chicken. But as they say, everything likes the taste of chicken.
Pretend to be a chicken.
Here's something else I did a little bit differently is this piece right here. I just put a little fencing staple right there and another fencing staple down here with a carabiner that I had on hand, and just cut a piece of that chain. Now that does mean that it's not quite, it does leave a little bit of a gap there, but it's not very big, and I don't think anything. You know, the other thing is about that is it's going to be inside an electric fence, so I'm not too worried about that being having a little bit of a gap. But I don't also see a wind that's going to be strong enough to take that thing, because of this metal roof up here and the size of this thing being 6 feet by 6 feet, and actually the roof being about 6'6" in length for the overhangs. It's heavy, and that's a heck of a wind. But we could get it, you know, up here in the mountains. We could end up with a big wind. But because this is a repurposed roof from some siding, it's got some holes and other things in it from you know, from being outside and just kind of being under a pile of leaves. It's got some other things, so I'm not sure how much that's going to leak, how big of a problem that's going to be. I put an experimental patch on this side just to see. I mean, this is just a piece of that T-Rex clear tape, just to kind of, I want to test that and see how long it stays on there without cleaning it, without just sticking it down. So I'm trying to see what if any impact it'll have, and you can see I actually missed the stud, or missed the piece twice here. One here and one over there. But that's okay. So it's got a couple holes in the roof, and we'll see how big that impacts. I tried really hard to make sure the back where the nesting boxes are is very good and very intact. This one actually, this screw ended up being in between two of the pieces of wood, so I just moved it over. That's not gonna, it's actually gonna drip inside the nesting boxes. But that's what we got going on. Use secondhand items. Now, to me, this structure is a little bit wiggly for my taste. I went ahead and put 2 carriage bolts down here to attach on those 2 cross beams to kind of give it a whole lot more support. But yeah, I'm not convinced of how strong it's going to be. Easy, kiddo. That thing. So I'm not convinced that that's the best method, and I might try and solidify that or do something else. Not real happy with the way that connects, but I might try a couple other options, as you just saw a very close call with that thing. With the gate. That thing's kind of heavy. It's kind of big. Pretty big piece of plywood. So some interesting things are going on. With the kids playing with this thing so much and kind of enjoying it as a toy, which is something they're not going to do, obviously, when the chickens are in it. Hey, sweetie. It's something they're not going to do when the chickens are in it, but it's providing a really good kind of field trial, if you will. They're testing out all the parts and pieces. If anything's going to break because of overuse, or maybe I didn't build it so properly or so great, we're going to find out, and this is a good way to find out. They're just going to town and exposing any little weakness and any little piece of brokenness that we have. So it's kind of, on one hand, I'm like, come on, kids, just, you know, don't, you're gonna do this. But then again, it's like, well, if they do find out and discover that something breaks, I'd rather know now than when birds are in there and it's their home. So, my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna fall. Just leave it. Hi, girls. So, for those of you who have ever asked and wondered why homestead, why homeschool, why do these things, there's at least 3 answers right here. Pull the little pins. There we go.
Don't pinch your fingers.
There you have it. Okay, next, take the pull rod out. Might take a little teamwork.
Hey, what are you doing?
You got to go toward Amelia once you get the pin out. Can you pull it out? There you go. I can make those a little bigger, Ken. There you go. Try twisting it. Sometimes that helps a little.
Hey, it's so easy. There we go.
There it is. Okay, you can just lean that up against it right now. We're not going to show that part. So let's go around to the back. And now, could you show me how to check the eggs in the egg basket? Good job. Now, can you pull one of the egg baskets out so we can see how we cut it? So, what's that do?
It helps the chickens come in. So
That's
they don't
right.
have to jump over. So they don't know how to jump.
That's Kitty.
Kitty. Hi, Mimi. Hey, Mimi.
And right now, what are you doing?
I'm hooking up the things so they can't get in the nest boxes.
That's right. Because you can do that just by taking that off, and you don't have to lift that big heavy lid.
Everyone,
Good job. Now we didn't show you putting on the kickstand. The kickstand can be a little tough because it's made to be just a little bit long. So it depends on the terrain. You don't want to have to. You don't want it to be too wobbly. You want it to be a little longer, so it definitely puts some weight on it. But sometimes it takes a little bit of kicking to get it into place. And then otherwise, when you're done with it for transport, just hook it up to that little tiny hook. It's got a little baby hook down there that you can hook it onto and get it up out of the way so you can move it. And it seems to work pretty well. So one thing that makes this kind of a sad debut is that I've finished building this thing on a day when my wife her grandmother passed away, and she's over in Europe right now, getting ready, preparing for the funeral with her sister and her mother or her parents. So kind of a sad thing. I mean, that she's not here to be with us, and she will be in future things, but just to know that she's loved and missed, and we miss you, baby. We love you and can't wait to have you back home. We're going to continue to pray for you and pray for the entire family and pray for your grandmother's soul and do all of those things, and really wish you were here to enjoy this moment with us, and can't wait to have you back.
Oh boy, it's easy to turn around.
So we got so excited about finishing off the chicken coop and doing a couple videos. We're all hungry, but we completely forgot to eat lunch. It's like 2:30 now. Don't tell anybody. Bad parenting, bad solo parenting.